Hello, friends, and welcome to Wellness Wednesday. I know it's been a while. We haven't had a lot of these, so I hope that lots of you join us and stick around for tonight. Before we get started, just a couple announcements for you. We do have some great education. This week we released a new, or sorry, on Tuesday, April 25th, we have Jamie Gracia joining us to share a short hair sculpting class that's right here on the Facebook and YouTube page. And what I was going to say is we did also release an awesome YouTube video for you this week, so make sure you check that out. If you do love Samvia tools, you have a great opportunity to earn money through that love. You can head to samvia.com for more information on our affiliate program. Cool thing is you get a 20% commission, and the people that you give this code to get an additional 10% discount on tools that they purchase, even if they're on sale, which is pretty awesome. And if you do like Samvia education, you can bring the Samvia art team into your salon, live and hands-on. You can head to samvia.com/education for more information on that, because hey, we all like hands-on education, right? So happy to have you guys here. If you're watching, please pop into the chat where you're watching from. Would love to hear from you. And this is going to be a pretty interactive class tonight. There's a lot that I want to share with you. And the focus this evening is all about reconnecting to ourselves. Now, I'm curious, just pop into the chat. What are the things that you feel disconnect from yourself? And I know this is a big subject because there's a lot of levels to this, but what is it that is in our world as hairdressers, as leaders, as coaches, educators, facilitators? What is it that leads us to feel like we have less of a connection to ourselves? Pop it into the chat. What do you think? Like I said, I want this to be a super interactive class tonight, so please jump in and join in the chats. But what are some of the things that you think are reasons that we can feel disconnected? Or maybe you don't feel disconnected. You can pop that into the chat too. But I would say that one of the most frequent things in my coaching practice, and I've coached hundreds of hairdressers, leaders, educators over the past about 15 years. Yeah, it has been almost 15 years. But in that coaching practice, one of the things that I find most people talk about is that they just feel disconnected from themselves, that their focus and their energy is out here, and it's hard to get that connection to themselves and to their own wisdom. And that leads to a lot of things, right? It leads to us not trusting ourselves very much. It makes us question ourselves. It makes us start to trust other people's word and their thoughts and perceptions much more than our own. So yeah, what is it that makes us get to that place that we feel disconnected? And if you're just joining us, that's what we're talking about tonight, is how do we reconnect to ourselves? And I'd love any feedback that you have in the chat about what is it that makes you feel like you get disconnected from yourself. I know for me, if I look back at hairdressing, especially being at the chair, I haven't been at the chair since 2016, but I did spend, like 17 years at the chair. And during that time, what I recognize about hairdressers and also leaders, maybe you're a salon owner watching or an educator, I know some educators watch this program too. But as those types of roles, we tend to put a lot of focus into other people. And so for me, what I noticed is, especially because as hairdressers, we love to work these ridiculously long days, like not 20 hours, but 12-hour days. In the process of spending 12 hours of your day focused on other people and their wants and their needs, and doing that maybe 5 days a week, yeah, it's pretty easy that we start to disconnect from ourselves. We don't feel embodied. And so just being in the industry that we are in the beauty industry, I think that in and of itself causes some disconnection. If you agree, pop it into the chat that, yeah, you feel that. And please, like I said, I want this to be interactive. So feel free to interact in the chat. You're welcome to ask questions tonight too. So, between being in an industry that we do put a lot of focus on other people, the long hours that we work, this can start that sense of being disconnected. But also look at how much we have shifted our attention to screens, especially in the last 10 to 15 years. I mean, how much, go on that a little part in your phone and look at how much screen time we have during the week. And it's a lot. We spend a lot of time on screens, which the time that we're spending on those screens, typically, unless maybe we're taking a yoga class online or we're doing a meditation class or something like that online, most of the time we spend in front of these screens aren't really focused on us connecting with ourselves, are they? And because of that shift more towards that digital focus, we don't find ourselves in communion with community and nature and things that are tangible and touchable as much as we used to. And I don't want this to become oh, the digital world's killing us, because, hey, look, it's all just technology and we have to use it, right? But it's just an example of the ways that we are pulled away from that connection with self. Hey, Shirley, how are you? Shirley says, my disconnection, coming to the realization that my hairstyling days are coming to an end. Oh my gosh. Yeah, Shirley. And, especially if it's something that we have built a lot of identity around and a lot of love and trust into, that can definitely feel disconnected. Thank you for offering that. I appreciate that. So, our world is also much less physical than it once was. And, I had a mentor that shared this with me a while back, and I was like, man, this makes a lot of sense. Back before we had a lot of, machinery and things that kind of, think about like the electric scooters that are everywhere now. I see a lot less kids pushing scooters and a lot more kids throttling on scooters these days. And again, I'm not trying to make that into a bad thing. It is what it is. It's just an advance in technology. But the point is we are less physical than we were probably 10 or 15 years ago too. And that connection to physical body is an important part of our intelligence and our internal wisdom. So again, my point is there are so many things that draw our attention away from ourselves to other people, to other things, to outside world. And there's not a lot of things that reconnect us in this modern life that we live. So that's where I think that it's really important to take time and take energy to put into something that reconnects us to ourselves. Because every one of you that are watching, I want you to really, really connect to this for yourself. It's not that you ever disconnected actually from yourself. It's not that you actually really somehow left your body. It's that you were distracted from it. And so it's always been there. It always will be there. So a lot of what we need to do is start to create those practices and those habits that reconnect, or not even necessarily, I'm sorry, not reconnect, but pull away those barriers. So, for me, it is finding time that this doesn't go in my hand, that this gets put away somewhere when I'm trying to have that connection, maybe to my family or to nature or to my own self. I know that, like we said, most of us have pretty busy lives. So, part of what I want to share tonight are things that are really achievable, things that don't necessarily take a full commitment of, I have to dedicate a full hour every single day to this practice, or else it's going to be non-beneficial. Because again, in my coaching clientele, this is something that I see really often. We get really excited and we want to make these big commitments to ourselves. And then real life, which is busy, starts. And we go, oh, I just don't have time for that breathing exercise today. I don't have time to, I'm so busy and I really need to get to those emails. So I just don't have time to not pick up my phone this morning. And that's real life. And again, I want to make sure that I'm clear that I'm not trying to make anyone feel guilty about that. That's just the way we live. So instead, we have to take a bit different approach, right? Yeah, Shirley says baby steps are easier, and it's the truth. So, what I want to be able to share with you tonight is some things that you can do to baby step your way back onto the path of reconnection, to scrub away some of those boundaries and those things that are blocking us from being able to be present with ourselves and feel connected to ourselves. So, if this sounds good, throw a thumbs up, throw a heart, something. Just let me know you guys are out there. I can see that there's some of you watching, but Shirley's the only one talking to me. Come on. But I'm sure some of you are watching as you're driving home or something. Well, hopefully not watching as you're driving home, but listening. So the first thing I want to introduce you to is a couple breathing exercises. So I got into breath work back in 2013-ish. I got turned on to this thing called multiple brain integration techniques. And we're actually going to give you a sample of multiple brain integration techniques here in a little bit. But in that practice, a big part of the practice is getting into the body through the breath. What was really cool, and it was very different from some of the yogic breathing. Oh, thank you, Andrea. She's got my back. She's throwing me a heart. I appreciate that. One of the things that was really interesting to me was this is a little bit different from some of the breathing patterns that I had experienced in yoga teachings that I had gone to. It was more about just getting the breath to be natural feeling. And just to check in real quick, because there's a very real thing called screen apnea. How many of you that are watching right now are breathing in a very natural and supportive way? Just check in. I'd guess that a lot of you probably went, oh my gosh, actually, I was barely breathing. And it's a very real thing called screen apnea. So yet another thing that kind of happens to us because of our digital world, we don't have good connected breath that is supportive on a daily basis. And the breath is such an important part of our connection to ourselves. So here's the first little thing I want you to try. I want you to just, right now, check in with, what are you breathing through? And I know that sounds like a funny question, but there's two aspects to this. There's what am I breathing through, and then where am I breathing from? So what am I breathing through, and where am I breathing from? What am I breathing through is it the nose or the mouth? Good, Shirley. Shirley's breathing through the nose. If you found that you were breathing through your mouth, this is probably one of the most important practices of any kind of breath work, is to get back to nasal breathing. And here's a couple of reasons why. Number one, the nose actually has a natural bit of restriction to it. And you might think, well, why would I want restriction to the breath? Shouldn't I have, no restriction to the breath out through the mouth? The body was meant to breathe through the nose with that natural constriction. So if we learn to breathe through the mouth over time, what ends up happening is we over breathe typically. And it might even be a short, fast breath. It might be a kind of a quick, fast, almost pant breath that we've developed. Even those short, fast breaths, because of how many breaths you are taking over the course of a minute, can be over breathing, and it's most likely hyperventilation. So one of the best things that you can do is try to reteach yourself to breathe through the nose. That natural bit of restriction that happens through the nose, it slows down the breath. That little bit of restriction that we get actually activates the muscles of the diaphragm. Because I said there's two aspects to this. It's where do we breathe through and what do we breathe with? So where do we breathe through, or what do we breathe through, is we want to breathe through the nose. And where do we breathe from? Sorry, I messed up the second aspect. But where do we breathe from? That should be from deep in the belly. It should be coming from the actual diaphragm muscle moving to draw the breath into the lungs. If we breathe through the mouth, most likely we're also probably focused pretty much up here in the upper chest region. There's just a biomechanics aspect to that. If we switch to the nose, Because of that restriction, it actually places a little bit of resistance onto the muscles, and it really engages the diaphragm muscle to activate. So, breathing through the nose and breathing low in the body through the diaphragm, that would be where I would start. And here's the thing, just practice that a little bit as we're having this conversation. And I think what you'll notice is you become much more aware of your body if you're consciously trying to breathe through the nose and trying to get that depth of the breath into the diaphragm down into the lower portion of the body. So that would be my first tip. Teach yourself to breathe through the nose. And for those of you, if there are a few of you out there that do find that you are having short, fast breaths through the mouth, this could be challenging at first, because if you haven't been using the nose can get really stuffy because it's not doing what it's supposed to do. So you might have to start with short periods of time and build up to it. Just focus on it for a minute at a time. And if you can breathe through your nose for 1 minute, you can reteach yourself to breathe through your nose all the time, even at low stress exercise levels. If you guys are out there that are like, real big athletes, yes, there will get to a point in that exercise that you'll probably have to switch to mouth breathing. But we encourage, through Oxygen Advantage, the company that I trained with, that we try to use the nose as much as possible, because that's what it's there for. All right, so second breathing activity to practice. Yes, Shirley, thank you for putting that in. Shirley says breathing through the diaphragm, have to make a conscious effort while working. So just like I said about screen apnea, there's also just kind of a general focus apnea, which is if I'm super focused on a haircut, if I'm super focused on the color that I'm putting onto the hair, my breathing will tend to become kind of shallow. And if the breathing's kind of shallow, it tends to sit up here in the upper chest. So that's a really common challenge, Shirley. And yeah, it does take some time to get that practice. And I've been practicing this stuff for a couple of years now. And I can honestly say it's just now getting to a point where most of the time, if I check in, unless there's like something causing me some real anxiety, for the most part, I'm breathing from the right place. So it does take some time. So here's your second breathing exercise to play with. The second one is one of my favorites. It's kind of a rescue technique. How many of you out there just throw a thumbs up or a heart into, whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, you can just throw a thumbs up or a heart or something. How many of you find yourself getting a little anxious sometimes, especially at work or with family? How many of you feel sometimes like that anxiety starts to build up? Just throw a heart or a thumbs up or something so I know you're out there. Here is a great practice when you start to feel that anxiousness. Thank you, Shirley. When you start to feel that anxiousness, using very short breath holds is one of the best ways to get your nervous system back under control. And I'll explain a little bit about why, but let me set you up with how to practice this. So those of you that are watching, practice along with me. What we're going to do is we're going to take a natural inhale through the nose, exhale through the nose. After the exhale, reach up and pinch your nose so that it stays closed. And you're going to count down 3, 2, 1. Release it. Then go back to your natural breathing and take 2 or 3 natural breaths. So just take 2 or 3 natural breaths right now. After your second or third natural breath, you're going to do the same thing. Take a natural inhale through the nose, natural exhale through the nose, reach up, pinch and hold, and count down 3, 2, 1, release. So keep doing that. Take 2 or 3 natural breaths in between each one, but do a short breath hold after the exhale. Make sure it's after the exhale. So those of you that are watching and want to play along, keep doing that while I'm talking to you. So just take a few natural breaths after an exhale, pinch and hold. And it is important to pinch and hold if you feel comfortable. If it gives you any kind of anxiety to touch your face or nose, don't worry about it. You can just hold your breath. But what is happening with this is we are extending the effect of the exhale. So when we breathe, we are actually accelerating the heart rate and activating more of the sympathetic side of the nervous system, which is that kind of fight or flight side of the nervous system on the inhale. So when we inhale, heart rate goes up and the energy kind of goes up. We upregulate. As we exhale, the heart rate actually drops and we start to chill out a little bit. So this is happening with every single inhale and exhale. So holding the nose on the exhale extends the feeling of that parasympathetic action, which is the rest and digest side of the nervous system. So if we want to try to calm ourselves down, we want to extend the exhale side of our breathing pattern. So it's an inhale, exhale. After the exhale, you pinch and hold. You count down 3, 2, 1, release, let go, take 2 natural breaths and repeat the process. So hopefully a couple of you are trying it out there. If you are and you're practicing it, please put into the comments how it's feeling. The other thing that's happening is carbon dioxide is actually starting to increase in your blood. That's a good thing. Carbon dioxide is one of the most misunderstood things because we think of it as a waste gas. But you have to have a certain percentage of carbon dioxide in your blood, which we get the carbon dioxide through the gas exchanges in the body. Cool, Sherry. I'm glad you're here and practicing. Awesome. Thank you. Ooh, Zambia Professional says, feels fantastic, more awake. That's great. So what's happening is as that carbon dioxide level increases, it is releasing more of the oxygen that's held in the hemoglobin in the blood into the tissues, into the brain. So you are getting, it can feel relaxing. It can actually feel more awake. It can start to feel more clear. But that the oxygen being released from the blood into the tissues, into the brain, that helps everything just feel more centered, more present. Oh man, Shirley, I'm sorry to hear that your cat's on the way to the clinic. I hope they're going to be okay, and I'm glad this is helping you think again. But that increase in carbon dioxide is actually a very good thing, because like we were talking about before, especially if we breathe through the mouth and we have kind of a shallow, fast breath, we're typically overbreathing and we're typically hyperventilating. And hyperventilating actually causes a low content of carbon dioxide within the blood. So this helps to restore that. And I don't want to get too far into the science because it can get super geeky, but the vagus nerve, which is part of the parasympathetic side of the nervous system, we'll just keep it really simple. The vagus nerve, which is part of what helps to make sure that the parasympathetic side of the nervous system is doing what it's supposed to do. And it also helps to keep the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight side, from taking over. It keeps that vagus nerve doing what it's supposed to do, and it keeps it active. So that's the very unscientific, very just unscientific explanation. So these short breath holds are great as a rescue maneuver. If there are people out there that are watching that you actually do find yourself hitting panic attacks sometimes, what people have found with this particular practice is there's usually those warning signs of the panic attacks, right? Like usually most people feel some tingles. They'll feel like maybe some ringing in the ears or some dilation of the pupils. There's some warning signs that start to hit. And if you do these short breath holds, as you feel the warning signs, this can often keep people from going into a full-blown panic attack. So just real short, gentle, and it should feel really good. If 3 seconds feels good, try 5 seconds. If 5 seconds feels great, you can do 7 seconds. But the thing that you don't want to do is go so long with this particular practice that you feel like you kind of have to take a big gasp for air after you release the breath hold. It should feel like you can just return to your natural breathing pattern with ease. This should just feel really beautiful, really gentle. Cool? So that's another way to get us back reconnected with ourselves. And that's, to me, one of my favorite practices. And by the way, sorry, I should have said this from the very beginning, but this isn't just a rescue maneuver. This is a practice that you can do multiple times throughout the day. And you could do it 2 or 3 minutes at a time. Just do a couple short breath holds. And doing it frequently throughout the week really will help to reset your breathing patterns too. It can actually help you get back to some great natural beat breathing patterns. So those are the 2 breathing exercises I would suggest for most of you, especially if you're just getting started with some type of breath work. And I do actually have a new program that I'm launching. It's called the Journey of Self-Discovery. It is a online program. It's a group coaching program, and I'm launching it tonight to my friends here at Wellness Wednesday, and then I'll start to talk about it more publicly tomorrow. But this is once a week. It's 30 minutes live, once per week, and it's $75 per month. And I'm doing a promotion right now called the First 49. So the first 49 people that sign up, they get their first month for $49. So but my friends behind the scene will pop that website into the chat. It's www.thejourneyist.life/membership. And like I said, we'll pop that into the chat so you don't have to remember that. And if you want to sign up with that discount, the discount code is FIRST49, and it's the numbers 49. So FIRST49 is the code for that. But what this is it's a really affordable, really approachable dedication to yourself, that you get to practice breath work, you get to practice reconnecting to yourself, and you can develop that stuff into whatever level of practice that you want. It can be 5 or 10 minutes a day. It can just be the 30 minutes per week that the actual session is. All of it's recorded, and you'll also have access to a library of all of these breathwork techniques that I've been talking about, plus more advanced techniques as well, and a deeper explanation of them. So if you're interested to dedicate 30 minutes a week to something that can help you reconnect to yourself, learn some more of this breath work, we just put it into the chat there, so the information's into the chat for you. But we're getting a little late on time, so I want to take you into one more quick practice. And this is a sample of what I talked about in the beginning, if you were here, which is multiple brain integration techniques. And I know that's a big word, but basically, since the beginning of knowledge, the wisdom teachers have been talking about different aspects of wisdom from the body, not just head brain, but heart brain, gut brain, the nervous system. There's lots of different things that the wisdom teachers of the past have talked about as different types of intelligence and wisdom that in our modern day life, we tend to pretty much focus on one source of intelligence, which is the head brain. Hi, Claudia. Welcome. Thank you for being here. So what this practice does is it helps us to get back to the body's wisdom. And scientifically now, we can prove that you do actually have wisdom in the heart. You do actually have intelligence in the gut, because there are similar structures in the heart and in the gut that are in the brain. In fact, you have as many neurons in your gut intelligence as you do, or as a cat does in their brain. So there is actually intelligence within these things. It's not just old esoteric wisdom, it is now scientific fact too. So here's a quick little practice to try this out. What I'd like you to do, if you want, if you're somewhere that you can, so that you kind of take away the distraction and you'll be able to hear me, is if you can, just go ahead and close your eyes. And I want you to just start with just taking a few natural breaths in and out through the nose. So just close the eyes, maybe get yourself nice and grounded in your seat so you feel supported. And just take a few natural breaths in and out through the nose, nice gentle breaths. Try to make the in-breath even with the out-breath so that there's a balance between the in-breath and the out-breath. And as you do this, just start to bring some focus and awareness into the center of your chest, wherever you would feel when you would say something like, well, my heart is telling me this. Bring your focus to that place. Because I know that most of you have probably made that statement at some point in your life. Well, my heart is telling me this. My heart is feeling this. So try to actually find that physical space within your chest that you identify as that heart center. Yes, the actual physical heart sits about here. It's up and kind of to the left. But some people really kind of feel it a little bit lower. Some people feel it a little bit higher and in the center. It doesn't matter. It's about where you feel it. So bring attention to that space that you feel is your heart intelligence. Here in the heart intelligence, what the research and what people have always said is what it tells us is that this is our center of our compassion intelligence. It is the center of our empathy intelligence. It is the center of our connection. It is the center of our values. So as you start to bring focus there and into the chest and into that heart space, can you start to consider what it feels like when you're being compassionate, when you're being empathetic, when you're around people that you feel very connected to, when you feel connected to your values, when you're doing things that feel very connected to who you are on a values level. Try to consider that as you have that focus there in that heart space. And you might notice that you can actually physically feel the sensation of these things that we tend to call feelings or emotions or thoughts. There is an actual physical sensation that comes along with it. You may even notice that maybe there's some colors that come up or some type of visual or some type of texture that comes up along with that. And this is the heart intelligence sharing information with you. This is happening at all times. You're just bringing your awareness to it. You are just becoming aware of it right now. And in that awareness, we have more connection to it now. It doesn't feel so far away, right? The thing with heart intelligence is it is more subtle than the head intelligence. Because we have put so much focus up here in the mind, it's very loud. It has a lot of our focus. It's the present thing that we bring our focus to. So the heart feels very subtle sometimes, and some of you might be experiencing that as you try this. It doesn't feel really loud. It doesn't feel like what we get from the head. And that's exactly right. So I want you to just kind of touch into these things. So now stick with your breathing. Maybe just check in, make sure you're not holding your breath, just nice, easy breaths in and out through the nose. And I want you to just drop your focus down more into the belly space now. And the belly can be pretty subtle too. So if you don't find this space right away, don't worry, just keep bringing focus down deep into the belly. And again, because of what people have said, and because of the research, and because of the things that our esoteric wisdom teachers have brought to us, what we know of gut intelligence is that a lot of it is about self. It's about sense of true self and truth. It can also be about action. It can be about digestion. Imagine that, right? But when we take in something, and sometimes we say, you know what, I need a minute to really digest this. That's gut intelligence. It's not just about digesting food. It's also about digesting our experiences. It's also about digesting information that we might take in. So as you bring focus deep down there into the belly space, when you think about that sense of true self, what is really true to you, what you know about yourself, try to feel that deep down in your belly. If you consider what it feels like to want to take action on something because you're excited about it, try to feel that deep down in that belly space. This is also where a lot of people say that they get their sense of intuition. So when you say, I have a gut feeling about that, a lot of times that's what we're saying, is that intelligence from deep down in the gut space, that's what's talking to us. That sense of intuition, that sense of gut intelligence can tend to be very, very subtle. It's a lot of times like you just kind of know, but you don't know how you know. That is a great example of gut intelligence, a great example of intuition. So, like I said about the heart, sometimes we don't notice the information that's coming from these intelligences because it's not as loud and it's not as much of a focus as it is in our head. So let's actually come up to the head now. Bring your focus up into your head, into your mind. And what I want you to start to do is, as you're breathing, just try to find the space in the mind. And I know that this might sound a little funny. Try and find the space in the brain that is the very analytical part of the brain. And there's no right or wrong here. It's just whatever you feel. Where is that space up here that is my really analytical part of my mind? A lot of people tend to feel it up here in the front, which actually does make sense because the prefrontal cortex is kind of the logical thinking mind. But it could be back here, it could be on the sides, it doesn't matter. It's whatever it feels like to you. That's what's important. So that's just one aspect of the head intelligence. There's also, yeah, Shirley, it can be pretty busy up there, right? There's also a part of the head brain that the intelligence is about creativity. It's about creation. It's about making things and doing things and seeing things. So see if you can find that part of the mind. Where does that live differently from the analytical part of the brain? Where is the part of the brain that's that creative space, that curious space, that space that wants to create beautiful stories? This can also be the space that creates not so helpful stories sometimes, but they're still creative, aren't they? We can be quite creative with those stories. So the head brain, like I said, we tend to think of primarily as like an analytical space, but it can also be a creative space. Shirley says it's a bigger space. Nice. I like that. Yeah. I know that for me, that analytical part, it can be very strong and it can definitely take over my thinking. So I love to spend time making sure that I'm checking in with like, okay, what is the other spaces within my mind? What are the other supportive places, especially the creative spaces? So as you start to just kind of, if you do have your eyes closed, you can just sort of softly start to bring your gaze back into the room, bring your focus back into the room. And I just want you to take notice. That was about 5 minutes that we just did that. Do you feel more connected to yourself? And I really wanted to give you all an opportunity to try a couple things. We did 3 things, right? We did some nasal breathing and tried to focus on that diaphragmatic action of breath work. We did some short breath holds, and we just went through a very short connection to the multiple intelligences. None of this was necessarily hard or complex. I don't want to say it was easy either, because sometimes it's not, but it's not complicated and it doesn't take a long time. And again, coming back to what I said earlier at the beginning of our show, I really wanted to share some things with you tonight about reconnecting to yourself that don't have to be complicated. They don't have to be terribly time consuming because we do live in a world that we don't necessarily always have a lot of time. We don't have a lot of spare focus. So if we can do some of these short breathing exercises, just close our eyes and just say, okay, let me come to my heart intelligence. Let me just get into my body here and check in with like, yeah, what is my sense of compassion around this? What is my sense of empathy around this? It helps us get reconnected and refocused on the things that are really always there. These things don't leave you. They weren't gone. You didn't actually disconnect from yourself. Things just got in the way. You just became distracted with something else. So it's still there for you. It's still accessible. And hopefully with those couple practices, you notice that it's actually not that hard to find moments to get back to it. So my challenge for you is to not turn this journey of rediscovery of yourself and reconnection to yourself into something that feels heavy or it feels daunting or it has to become, I've got to do 2 hours a day of this and 2 hours a day of that, because that might not be realistic. If it is, great. But for most of us, it's not. So these bite-sized chunks are a great way to start this journey. Like I said, I do have this new program that I'm just releasing called The Journey of Self-Discovery. It's on my website, thejourneyist.life. You can do thejourneyist.life/membership to find it. And that has all the information about this. It's a weekly program where we get together once a week for 30 minutes live, But all of that is also recorded along with a lot of breathwork information on the website. So you can use it as often as you want, or you can just stay committed to a simple 30 minutes per week. And it's only $75 a month. So it's very affordable. But as I said earlier, the first 49 people that do sign up for this program, we're doing a promotion called First 49. And that's your discount code is First 49, the numbers. And you can get your first month for $49. If you're not into it, you're always welcome to cancel whenever you want. That's completely up to you. But this would be a great commitment to yourself that you get 30 minutes per week that's just designed to get you focused back on connecting with yourself. So I hope this was helpful for you tonight. I really love talking about this stuff. I hope you can feel that. And I love reconnecting back with my Samvia crew because it has been a long time. And just in case you did not connect with us right at the very beginning, we do have a great class coming up for you on Tuesday, April 25th with Jamie DeGrazia. They are teaching a short hair sculpting class on our Facebook and our YouTube Live. Jamie is an incredible teacher, so please don't miss that. And if you are looking for in-house education or in-salon education, you can head to samvia.com/education. This has all the details on how to bring the Samvia art team into your salon, live and hands-on. And we do have great promotions going on at the website right now. Our specialty shears are $150 off. Again, that's at samvia.com. So you can head to the website for more information on that. Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate you all, and we'll see you next week for Transformation Tuesday.